You didn't just stumble across this message, you were drawn here. Something deeper pulled you in, because heaven has been whispering your name in this very hour. You are not just someone hoping for breakthrough. You are someone marked for it. And this, right now, is your confirmation. Divine timing isn't random, it's intentional. It shows up like this, quiet, bold, undeniable. You've walked through fire and didn't fold. You've stayed silent while others got seen. You've been faithful in places that felt forgotten. And guess what? Heaven took note. You're not behind. You're right on schedule. The shift that's been stirring in your spirit, the weight you've been carrying without applause, that was the preparation for the platform you're about to walk into. And not a soul can take from you what God set aside with your name on it. So take a breath and lean in. This isn't just motivation, it's activation. You're about to understand why the pain hit so hard, why the delays were allowed, and why the weight got heavier right before the release. Because what's coming isn't regular. It's revelation. It's restoration. It's real. Welcome to the moment your spirit's been waiting for. Welcome to the transfer. Let's go. If you feel the abundance of divine love filling your heart, now is the perfect time to share it. By clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and contributing $100 or more, you can help spread God's blessings far and wide. Your offering will not only touch your own life, but also reach countless souls through this platform. Each of you holds a sacred place in God's magnificent plan, and your generosity will be the answer to many prayers. Take action now. Share your blessings to honor His kingdom. For you were created to accomplish even greater works through His loving hands. May God's grace be with you. There are moments in life when it feels like the lights dim and the curtain closes, not because the show is over, but because the set is being changed for something bigger. That's where you've been. Not discarded, but developed. Not overlooked, but overshadowed by divine preparation. You weren't walking through punishment. You were walking through process. And now, all that quiet becoming is about to make sense. Every time you wanted to quit, but didn't. Every time you held on by a thread, He was shaping you. Not just to handle blessing, but to carry it with character. Before any great unveiling, there must be a deep foundation. You were taken low so you could go high without tipping over. While others sprinted ahead, you were taught to walk with weight. While the world clapped for surface success, you were being stretched for something eternal. Not everyone will understand your journey, and they don't have to. It was never about being seen. It was about being sent. Those dry seasons, they weren't delays. They were deposits. Deposits of discipline. Deposits of discernment. Deposits of a depth only found in stillness. You learned how to sow when nothing was growing. How to serve when nothing was applauding. How to stay faithful when nothing was moving. And now, the same ground that once felt barren is about to break open with abundance. But this time, you won't fumble the favor, because you've been formed by fire. Yes, doors closed. Yes, people walked away. Yes, opportunities slipped through your fingers. But they were never the final piece, only filters to keep you focused. The detours weren't rejections, they were redirections. Heaven had to clear the stage so your true assignment could step forward. And let's be real. If you had gotten what you wanted back then, it would have crushed you. But now you're built for it. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. You're not showing up the same way anymore. There's a new walk in your step. Not flashy, but firm. a confidence that doesn't beg, a strength that doesn't shout. You've been stripped of everything false so that what's left is solid gold. You've got clarity now, you've got capacity, you've got roots that grew in silence and storms, and nothing can shake that. This next season isn't just about rising, it's about reigning, responsibly, humbly, powerfully. You're not stepping into the spotlight to be seen. You're stepping forward to serve. And you're not showing up empty. You're bringing the oil that only comes from crushing. What tried to bury you ended up blessing you. What tried to weaken you ended up waking you. What tried to stop you has no power now because you're not the same. You're refined, ready, real. Your journey starts here. Hit subscribe now and step into your purpose. Don't miss what's coming. This was never about prosperity for pride's sake. This was about maturity, authority, legacy. And now the time has come, not to perform, but to walk fully in the thing heaven trusted you to carry. It's not just your time, it's your turn, and you're ready. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1:5. Think of an old oak tree planted in the middle of a quiet field. It doesn't chase the wind. It doesn't compete for space. It simply stands, deeply rooted, because it knows. Long before the leaves ever touch the sky, its foundation was already laid. That's you. You've been planted with precision, not accident, marked from the beginning, set apart before you even had the words to ask why you felt different. Some people carry evidence of divine intent in ways they can't even explain. You may have noticed it early, the way certain rooms felt too loud for your spirit, the way stillness felt safer than spotlight, the way you picked up what others missed. That wasn't oddness. That was awareness. That was the Spirit of God whispering, I place something in you that doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. Before the world ever tried to define you, before titles, jobs, relationships, applause, He had already spoken purpose over your life. You weren't selected from a crowd. You were formed with focus. There was no scramble in your making. There was a plan, a blueprint, crafted not just to exist, but to shift spaces when you walk in. Your gift didn't show up in adulthood. It grew with you. It was buried deep, so the storms couldn't shake it. And when life got heavy, it didn't create your strength. It revealed it. You didn't get chosen because of your pain. You were chosen, and that's why pain came. Not to break you, but to build what was already inside. The hardship didn't give you power. It peeled back layers until your God-given grit stood up. That's why, even in loss, you found resilience. Even in silence, you discovered identity. You didn't need a stage to be validated. Heaven had already endorsed you. So now, when you wonder why certain paths didn't fit, why certain people didn't stay, why certain seasons felt like isolation, it's because what's in you couldn't be rushed, copied, or dimmed to blend in. It had to be grown in secret to carry weight in the open. You're not late. You're not forgotten. You're just reaching the part of your story where what God planted begins to bloom out loud. And when it does, the world won't say, "Where did that come from?" They'll say, "Of course it was always there." Because chosen doesn't start in the spotlight. It starts in the soil. This call wasn't something you stumbled upon. It's been beating like a second heartbeat, pulling you into assignments others don't see. That creative fire that never goes out. That vision you can't stop seeing. That burden that feels heavy but holy. You weren't imagining things. You weren't chasing a fantasy. You were receiving a signal. Divine purpose doesn't beg for attention. It reveals itself through persistence. You didn't miss out. You were preserved. While others raced to stages and platforms, you were being shaped in private places where applause couldn't touch your motives. The setbacks were not signs of failure. They were divine edits. Every closed door was a redirected path. Every disappointment was a rerouting, not a rejection. You weren't late, you were in training. You weren't meant to mimic what already exists. You were born to release what hasn't been seen yet. That's why your path looked unfamiliar. That's why the usual formulas didn't work. You weren't meant to be molded by common patterns. You were carved out for uncommon glory. God withheld some wins, not to punish you, but to protect what He planted in you. Your uniqueness demanded isolation. Your future required purification. And now comes the moment of overflow. Not because you've arrived at perfection, but because you remained faithful through the refinement. Because you didn't let bitterness take root. Because you poured out when you had every reason to withhold. Because you stayed when walking away would have been easier. Heaven watched all of it, and now the oil is being released. You were trusted with tension because you could carry it without losing your soul. You were assigned the stretch because you would return stronger. And now the outpour is coming, not just so you can receive, but so others can be blessed through what you carry. You're not being elevated to prove anything to the world. You're being positioned to unlock what others have buried. Dear brothers and sisters, may the peace of God fill your hearts today. I come to remind you of a profound truth. Our lives are firmly established in God's divine purpose, untouched by the fleeting worries of this world. As Scripture tells us, give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. Luke 6:38. Like the mighty oak whose roots are planted deep in rich soil, our foundation is anchored in God's eternal truth. Every move we make, every stand we take, is upheld by His enduring strength. Today, you have the opportunity to participate in this divine blessing. By clicking the Super Thank You button and offering a gift of $75, you will sow into a harvest that will return to you many times over in God's abundant grace. You are a conduit, not a collector, a release point for heaven's help. You were never average, you were never random, you were never just passing through this life. You are a delivery system of something eternal. The shift you're feeling, it's not hype, it's harvest. You're not stepping into this season with empty hands. You're coming loaded with everything the wilderness taught you. And this time, it's not going to break you. It's going to bless through you. Some people weren't trained on platforms. They were trained in pressure. You didn't come into wisdom by sitting in circles of applause. You were molded in moments where everything seemed to fall apart, yet somehow you didn't. What you carry now didn't come from books or borrowed knowledge. It was earned through the nights of deep wrestling, through the heaviness you had no words for, through the moments when your breath felt too short and your heart too full of unanswered questions. What you lived through wasn't a random string of hardships. It was divine construction. Every hit that didn't destroy you built something eternal inside of you. You weren't just going through it, you were growing through it. The silence wasn't abandonment, it was sacred ground where your faith found its real voice. You learned how to keep walking without a visible map. You stopped looking for confirmation and started moving with conviction. The fire didn't leave you the same. It burned off what you didn't need. It exposed illusions you didn't know you were clinging to. It shook loose the pride that whispered you had to do it all on your own. And when the ashes settled, what was left wasn't fragile. It was forged. What you thought was God ignoring you was actually God investing in you. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. Through the struggle, your appetite changed. You stopped hungering for spotlight and started craving stillness. You traded platform chasing for purpose living. You turned down noise to hear the narrow instruction. That's why you no longer chase after what once moved you. You move because you're sent now, not swayed. You don't wait for open doors to feel affirmed. You know who you are, even behind the scenes. The breaking wasn't the end of you. It was the beginning of alignment. And now, your discernment has depth. You're not easily flustered. You don't flinch at storms. The wind might blow, but it can't bend you like before. You've been built different. You've been through what others only read about. And what looked like the breaking point became your birthing place. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. And here you are, not limping, but locked in, not confused, but clear, not needy, but anchored. Because the struggle trained you to be faithful when fruit was nowhere in sight, to pray when prayers felt unanswered, to trust when trust hurt. And now, the blessing can come, not because you earned it with effort, but because you endured with obedience. You don't serve for what you can get. You serve because you were shaped for this. God can trust you now, not just with provision, but with responsibility. Not just with resources, but with the influence that builds others. You're not ruled by the reward. You've been refined beyond it. You no longer fear being empty because you know your source. You're not waiting to be seen because you're already sent. You've graduated from surviving the fire to carrying it. And when you show up, things shift, because it's not just what you've been through, it's what grew in you that carries the weight. You are evidence that pressure doesn't just crush, it constructs, that the spirit can't be trained in comfort, it's trained in conflict. And now that your foundation has been tested, heaven is ready to release what was always yours, not for the show, but for the assignment. So walk like it, move like it, live like it. The struggle wasn't your identity, it was your initiation. And now that the training is done, the release begins. Some of the deepest awakenings only come after you've been emptied. What you thought was loss was really the great revealing, pulling back every layer that wasn't really you, so the truth beneath could finally rise. It wasn't rejection, it wasn't failure, it was refinement. Everything that slipped from your hands, every room that wouldn't hold you, every no you thought was a closed door was actually heaven's reroute. Because what was built on shallow ground couldn't hold the depth of your assignment. And you weren't just asked to let go, you were called to grow. Not out of bitterness, but into boldness. Every title you lost, every place you were overlooked, every version of yourself that had to die. It was all so you could stop performing and start becoming. You weren't being punished, you were being redirected from counterfeit comfort to real calling. When you stood in the silence, with nothing left but breath and belief, you touched the kind of strength that can't be taught. That was the classroom, where trust went from theory to truth. No applause, no crowd, no stage, just you and the echo of a promise too big to forget. That's where you stopped begging for validation and started moving in revelation, where you traded public opinion for divine instruction. When you couldn't lean on approval, you leaned on presence. When it didn't add up on paper, you stepped anyway. That's when you started praying from the gut, listening with your spirit, not your ears. obeying without conditions. And that kind of obedience isn't convenient, it's costly, but it's also the kind that carries oil. Now something has shifted. You no longer flinch when things fall apart. You've seen what stands when the dust settles, and you've learned to ask different questions. Not why did this happen, but what is heaven trying to build through this? You've stopped chasing open doors and started checking the spirit. You don't run to be seen anymore. You move to be sent. And in that alignment, acceleration comes. Not hustle, not grind, just flow. Because now, you know the source. You've watched him provide when logic said it was over. You've seen breakthrough follow obedience, not effort. That's why you walk with a stillness now. Not because you don't care, but because you do. And you've learned that striving can't replace surrender. What you lost trained you to handle what's coming. The sting made space. The silence stretched you. The setback recalibrated your soul. And now, what's being released won't just bless you. It'll build through you. You're not just positioned for elevation, you've been entrusted with it. Because heaven knows you won't hoard the blessing. You'll pour it. You'll pass it. You'll turn overflow into outpouring. You had to break to be poured. You had to lose to learn. But now you lead, not from theory, but from transformation. And that kind of leadership, it's unshakable, it's undeniable, and it's right on time. Some lessons won't arrive until everything familiar has fallen apart. There are seasons where heaven doesn't send explanations, it sends empty space. And in that space, your real assignment is revealed. What you thought was rejection wasn't the end, it was the recalibration. The job that slipped away, the person who left, the plan that crumbled, it wasn't sabotage, it was strategy. You weren't being left out. You were being lifted out of what no longer matched your mission. See, when you're leaning on too many props, you start to believe they're permanent. So, out of mercy, God removes what you thought you couldn't live without, not to punish, but to prune. And when the extras vanished, and your comfort vanished with them, you didn't disappear. You stayed standing. Wobbly at first, unsure maybe, but stronger than you realized. You didn't break, you got broken open. That's when identity surfaced. Not the version you performed, but the one you were born to embody. That's where the whisper of purpose grew loud, when the noise was gone, and you were left in the quiet, with nothing but your spirit. And suddenly, you found it wasn't empty at all. It was full of fire, full of resolve, full of truth. You stopped doing for approval and started doing from alignment. You stopped pleading for confirmation and started walking with conviction. In that refining space, you learned how to move without applause, how to stand in the dark without losing your light. You prayed prayers no one heard. You sowed seeds in dry ground, and you obeyed, not because it made sense, but because it made you. That kind of obedience builds something inside you that the world can't measure, but heaven honors. It's not flashy, but it's solid. Now you walk different. Not frantic, focused, not chasing, choosing. You don't say yes to every door anymore. You ask questions. You wait for peace. You recognize the difference between a good thing and a God thing. That kind of clarity isn't cheap. It's earned, and it carries weight. And when clarity meets obedience, increase follows. Not the kind that clutters, but the kind that confirms. Things that used to require striving now arrive through surrender. The doors that stayed closed weren't delay, they were protection. And now that your posture has shifted, provision flows not because you demand it, but because you're aligned for it. You don't manipulate outcomes, you steward the moment. What you lost wasn't wasted. It pointed you back to source, not supply. You saw that real security doesn't live in paychecks, people, or platforms. It lives in purpose. That's what you walk in now. Not status, not striving, but sacred assignment. And heaven recognizes it, because when you said yes to the process, even while hurting, you unlocked something the easy road could never give you. Trust. Not just your trust in God, but God's trust in you. You've proven you won't waste what He puts in your hand. You'll use it to lift others, to build legacy, to move in truth. You've been emptied of ego and filled with purpose. And now the release is coming. Not because you need it to feel whole, but because you're finally ready to handle it whole. You had to lose the illusion to gain the insight. And now you lead, not just with wisdom, but with weight. Because what once wounded you now qualifies you. You are the vessel, and the overflow has already begun. Now is the moment to share God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube. With a donation of $100 or more, you can actively participate in His divine mission and contribute to His greater plan. Every offering you make reflects the boundless generosity of God, and I trust it will return to you abundantly, far exceeding your hopes. Always remember, His protection and blessing accompany your every step and every act of giving. You are a vital part of His sacred design. You are strong and radiant, steadfast like His mighty rock. Experience God's miracles. Feel the rewards of your generosity deep within your soul, and shine your light with boldness and faith. May you be richly blessed, and may the light of the Lord continually guide your journey. You've crossed through the fire, not just to survive it, but to emerge as refined gold. What once felt like delay was really design. You weren't waiting for a blessing. The blessing was waiting for you to become the kind of vessel that could carry it without cracking. And now, that time has arrived. Not a step too soon, not a second too late. You've been summoned into a divine appointment, and heaven is unlocking what's already been set aside for you. What's unfolding now isn't just about abundance, it's about assignment. This isn't mere increase, it's inheritance. Not a reward for luck, but a release from legacy. The weight that once pressed you down is now the proof you're ready to carry what others dropped. You're stepping into what they forfeited, not from pride, but from preparation. This isn't just your moment to receive, it's your moment to reign with responsibility. And what's coming isn't noisy, it's steady. It's not about putting on a show, it's about putting things in order. What's being placed in your hands is more than provision, it's blueprint. You're being trusted with divine systems, heavenly ideas, supernatural endurance, and the clarity to not just chase platforms, but to build purpose. This is spiritual wealth, strategy from the throne room, wisdom that flows through silence, discernment that walks ahead of you, and peace that covers you like armor. You're not just carrying the blessing, you are becoming the breakthrough for others. Now it's time to clear the space, externally and internally. Your calendar isn't just about appointments, it's about assignments. Your home isn't just shelter, it's sanctuary. Declutter the noise, discern the timing. Don't just prepare your hands to receive, prepare your heart to serve, because what's being released will stretch beyond your name. It's going to touch people you'll never meet. It's going to rebuild places others gave up on. And you'll do it not with ego, but with grace. Not with spotlight, but with stewardship. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. You didn't get here by accident. You were carved by pressure, tested in silence, and proved faithful when no one was watching. You lost without losing hope. You gave when you had little. You stood still when it would have been easier to run. And now, because of all that, God is about to trust you with what others mishandled. Your yes, whispered through suffering, echoed louder than 10,000 shoutings of convenience. So take your stance, shoulders back, spirit open. This isn't about proving you're worthy. It's about living like you already are. Heaven has called your number, and what's on the way won't just elevate you, it'll commission you. Walk with certainty, speak with clarity, move with intention. Because you aren't just stepping into something, you're being sent. You are the fulfillment of groundwork, the answer to generations of prayers, the vessel that carries not just provision, but purpose. This isn't just arrival, it's activation, and everything you thought you lost was only making space for this very release. The time is now. The flow has begun, and the weight is shifting to the ones who can carry it with clean hands and pure motives. You're not just walking into transfer, you're walking in alignment, with power, with precision, with heaven's full backing.